All right, get ready, folks, because today we are diving headfirst into the world of sports.
Ooh, sounds exciting.
We've got some excerpts here from a physical education teacher certification study guide.
Wow.
And this thing is jam-packed with, insights into team sports, individual sports,
Oh, cool.
training techniques, even the psychology of good sportsmanship.
Interesting.
So whether you are, a seasoned athlete or just kind of a curious newbie, we're going to break it all down for you today.
I love it. It's not just about knowing the rules of the game or the scores.
Right.
It's about understanding why sports are so captivating and how they influence us and our community.
All right, so let's jump right in. One of the first things that really stood out to me was the emphasis on sort of learning considerations in physical education. It talks about creating an environment that's positive, supportive, inclusive for everyone.
Absolutely. And the guide really gets into this concept of intrinsic motivation.
Oh.
That inner drive to learn and grow and improve just for the pure joy of it. And that's really powerful in sports because when you're passionate and you're dedicated, that can really make all the difference in an athlete's performance.
Like that fire in your belly.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes you want to, go out there and push yourself and just give it your all.
Absolutely.
It's making me think back to my own PE classes.
Oh, yeah.
Were yours set up in a way that fostered that kind of inner drive?
That's so interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah.
Because the source actually highlights the importance of assessments in PE.
Okay.
And not just for grades.
Not just for a letter.
Right. Not just slapping a grade on a report card.
Yeah.
It's about figuring out what each student needs.
Right.
And tailoring the instruction to them.
Yeah.
To make sure that they really have that solid foundation before they move on to more challenging skills.
That's a really good point.
It's not a one-size-fits-all.
Not at all.
No.
Speaking of learning, this source also talks about positive transfer of learning.
Oh, yeah.
Which basically means using skills that you've learned in one sport to help you in another.
Yeah.
Like how mastering, kicking a soccer ball could give you a leg up when you're learning to punt a football.
Right. Or how the hand-eye coordination you develop playing tennis.
Oh, yeah.
Could make picking up badminton a lot easier.
Totally. Have you experienced this in your own life?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, for sure.
Give me an example.
I mean, for me, it was, the hand-eye coordination I developed playing tennis as a kid.
Yeah.
Made picking up badminton so much easier later on.
That's awesome.
And even the source mentions, how a tennis serve and a volleyball serve have some fundamental similarities.
Oh, wow.
Even though the sports themselves are pretty different.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
The guide also mentions varied practice and observational learning as techniques to kind of accelerate skill development. So mixing up those drills, watching other athletes, even analyzing your own game on video.
Yeah.
The more ways you can kind of engage with the skill, the better you'll master it.
And that's where having good coaches or instructors comes in.
Yeah.
They need to be able to see, what each individual needs.
Yeah.
And then provide feedback
Right.
that's going to help them grow.
Tailor that instruction.
Exactly.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about team sports.
Okay. Love it.
One thing I love about how the source talks about team sports is how it emphasizes that collaborative aspect, working together towards a shared goal.
Right. And it's not just about physical fitness either.
No.
It lists all these other benefits like sportsmanship,
Totally.
leadership, discipline, social interaction.
It's pretty remarkable.
It is. And even within a team sport,
Yeah.
it stresses the need for individualized training plans.
Yeah, that might seem a little counterintuitive at first.
Right? How does that work?
But when you think about it, it really makes sense because it's each player is
It's into the puzzle.
Yeah. And they need to develop their unique strengths and address their weaknesses.
To make that whole picture.
To make that whole team stronger.
Yeah.
Why else do you think individual training plans might be important even in a team setting?
Well, different positions might require specialized skills or physical attributes.
Right.
So a quarterback in football
Yeah.
needs a totally different training regimen
Yeah.
than a lineman.
Right.
And even players in the same position
Yeah.
might benefit from different plans that are tailored to their needs and goals.
So it's all about maximizing kind of each player's potential so they can contribute their best to the team.
To the team.
Now, safety, of course, has to be a top priority.
Absolutely.
Especially with those contact sports.
It's big time.
The source really emphasizes the importance of, proper equipment, making sure everyone's physically ready to play.
Yeah.
Having coaches that are aware of the potential risks and how to, prevent injuries.
Minimize those risks as much as possible.
Yeah.
So that everybody can enjoy
the game.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready to kind of dive into some specific team sports?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
The source gives us this whole table of popular ones.
Yeah.
And kind of drawn to soccer, field hockey, and flag football.
Oh, nice.
They all involve running and strategy.
Yeah.
And such a unique set of skills.
For sure.
What about you?
Well, I'm really intrigued by basketball, baseball, and ultimate frisbee.
Okay.
What fascinates me about these
Yeah.
is how different the scoring systems are, the player roles, the equipment, all of these things really influence the strategy and the flow of the game.
Right.
It's like each sport has its own personality.
Yeah, I love that. Each sport has its own personality.
Totally. I love that. Each sport having its own personality.
Yeah.
And you can really see that in basketball.
Oh, yeah.
With the 2- and 3-point shots.
Right.
It adds a whole other strategic element.
Yeah.
Do you go for the high percentage shot?
Right.
Or do you take the risk?
Yeah, go big or go home.
Yeah.
And it's such a fast-paced game.
It is.
You got to make those decisions really quickly.
Yeah, you have to be able to think on your feet.
The source also mentions dribbling and ball handling as being key skills.
Oh, absolutely.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, being able to control the ball while you're, weaving around opponents.
Yeah.
Whether you're on offense or defense, it's so important.
Totally.
And passing too,
Oh, really?
finding those open shots.
It's like a dance almost.
It is, yeah.
Now, baseball is interesting because it's often seen as kind of like a game of individual moments that ultimately add up to this collective effort.
Yeah.
The source breaks down all the different ways a batter can get on base.
Right.
Hits, walks, even errors.
And each one of those
changes things up.
Yeah, it changes the whole dynamic.
And suddenly the pressure's on the pitcher.
Totally.
Or maybe the base runners have to make a decision about stealing.
Right.
It's like this constant
push and pull.
Yeah, back and forth.
Yeah.
And then you have the fielding aspect of baseball.
Right.
Infield, outfield, each position needs its own set of specialized skills.
For sure.
And an incredible amount of awareness.
Think about those amazing,
Catches,
the diving catches.
highlights, those quick reaction plays.
Yeah, the shortstop.
Yeah, it's those moments that just make it
so fun to watch.
Okay, let's talk ultimate frisbee.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier, the scoring system is unique, but the rule that really throws me for a loop is that you can't run with the disc.
Right.
How does that even work?
I know. It's so interesting. It really forces players to focus on those precision throws.
Okay.
Strategic positioning.
You can't just barrel your way down the field, and there's no contact allowed either.
Right, which I think makes sportsmanship even more important.
It's almost like a self-officiated sport.
It is, yeah, in a way.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were talking about basketball, baseball, and ultimate frisbee.
Yes.
I want to shift gears a little bit
Okay.
to the sports I mentioned.
Yes.
Soccer, field hockey, and flag football.
Let's do it.
Starting with soccer.
Okay.
One thing that I always find so fascinating
Yeah.
is all the different ways to get the ball back in play
Oh, yeah.
after it goes out of bounds.
So many options.
Yeah.
Throw-ins, go kicks, corner kicks.
You got it all.
All these opportunities to,
Yeah.
regain control or shift momentum.
And unlike some other sports, soccer games can end in a draw,
That's right.
which adds a whole other layer of strategy, especially in, tournaments. Do you play it safe for the tie, or do you go all out?
Right. What's the best approach?
There's so much to consider.
You really have to adapt
You do.
to the situation.
And speaking of unique skills,
Yeah.
field hockey players have to master dribbling, passing, and shooting,
I know.
all while using only one side of the stick.
It's incredible.
It's mind-blowing.
So much hand-eye coordination.
Plus, you're not even allowed to use your body
Right, to control the ball.
to control the
It
ball.
makes it so much harder.
Yeah, it's like trying to juggle while riding a unicycle or something.
I love that analogy.
And you've got to be in such good shape.
Oh, yeah.
Physically.
The source talks a lot about conditioning for field hockey players.
Yeah, makes sense.
Sprints, endurance runs, agility drills.
Wow.
It's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
Last but not least, flag football.
Okay.
I love that it has like the essence of football,
Uh-huh.
but it prioritizes safety,
Yeah.
using those flags instead of tackling, but it still requires strategic thinking, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Those defenders have to anticipate where that ball carrier is going,
Yeah.
time their flagpoles
Yeah.
just right.
And I like that flag guarding isn't allowed,
Right.
like where you're trying to block your flag from being pulled.
Right. You gotta keep it fair.
Yeah, it really emphasizes
Good sportsmanship.
It's about respecting the spirit of the game,
Exactly.
relying on skill, not force.
So we've spent a lot of time talking about team sports,
We have.
but the source also covers individual and dual sports.
It does.
What stands out to you about those categories?
The first thing that comes to mind is the mental aspect.
Okay.
It's got to be so different.
Yeah.
When you're competing solo,
Yeah.
you don't have your teammates to rely on or celebrate with.
Right. It's all you.
It's all on you.
Yeah.
It's like this internal battle against yourself.
Wow. I like that.
Pushing your own limits, striving for excellence.
It's a whole different kind of pressure.
It is. The source gives us some good examples here.
It does.
Archery, badminton, golf, and tennis.
Yeah. And it's interesting that some, like tennis, you can play individually or as doubles.
That's true.
So you have to completely change your approach.
For strategy.
Yeah, and how you communicate.
Depending on whether you have a partner or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even though these may not be team sports in the traditional sense,
Yeah.
the benefits and safety precautions are just as important.
Right.
Proper technique, conditioning, awareness,
Yeah.
all crucial for preventing injuries
Yeah.
and achieving peak performance.
Okay, so are you ready to delve into the world of solo and duo sports?
I am.
I'm curious to hear more about this mental aspect you were talking about.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
How these athletes stay focused and motivated.
Right, when it's all on them.
When it's all on their shoulders.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how the rules and scoring systems for each sport kind of influence the strategies involved.
Okay.
For example, in archery.
Yep.
The source mentions that they have a limited amount of time to shoot their arrows.
Oh, wow.
Talk about pressure.
It's like every shot you take has all this pressure riding on it.
You got to be so precise, but also fast.
Right, finding that perfect balance.
Yeah.
I noticed that the source also talks about the importance of stance and grip and follow through in archery.
Makes sense.
It's fascinating how much technique goes into a sport that seems so still and quiet from the outside.
Yeah, almost like meditative.
Yeah, I like that.
And then you have badminton,
Okay.
which is all about
quick move.
super fast reflexes and,
Right. Yeah.
strategic shot placement.
Right.
It mentions that players have to use underhand serves.
Oh, okay.
And they can only hit the shuttlecock once before it goes over the net.
Right, and the shuttlecock is so light.
It is.
Even a slight breeze can mess things up.
I know, it's crazy.
Adds a whole other level of difficulty.
Yeah.
Okay, what about golf?
Oh, golf.
The source seems to really emphasize the etiquette and rules of the game.
Yeah, golf is definitely a sport that's big on tradition and playing with integrity.
Okay.
Play the ball as it lies.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
You can't, move it around to get a better shot.
Right, even if it's, in a bad spot.
Even if it's in a sand trap.
Yeah.
And you can only get advice from, your caddy or your partner.
Oh, really?
It's all about, honesty and self-reliance.
I bet the mental game in golf is huge.
Oh, it's massive.
You're out there often by yourself.
Yeah.
Got to manage your frustration, stay focused, even after a bad shot.
It's a game of patience.
Right.
And resilience.
And strategy, too.
Oh, yeah.
Choosing the right club.
A huge part of it.
The source talks about all the different types of swings.
Yeah.
Iron, putt, drive.
It's like having a whole toolkit.
Yeah, you got to know which tool to use
Exactly.
at the right time.
Right.
Okay, last but not least, tennis.
Oh,
The source breaks down all these different skills.
so many.
Forehand and backhand strokes, serving, volleying.
You have to be able to move so quickly.
So fast-paced.
React to your opponent's shots.
Right.
And adjust your strategy constantly.
And the scoring system.
Oh, my gosh. Easy.
With all its, unique lingo.
Love, 15, 30, 40.
It's a lot to keep track of.
It is, yeah.
It's definitely quirky.
But once you get it,
Yeah.
it adds a whole other level of excitement.
So we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have you.
Team sports, individual sports, training, safety.
Uh-huh.
But there's one more really important element we haven't talked about yet.
What's that?
Sportsmanship.
Oh, absolutely. Huge one.
The source actually has a whole section on this.
It does.
And it emphasizes that good sportsmanship.
Yeah.
It's something you learn.
You're not born with it.
Right. It's not innate.
It's about respect.
Respect.
For your opponents, for the official.
For the game itself.
Yeah, exactly.
And it goes beyond just being a good winner or loser.
It does.
The source gives some good advice.
It does.
For, coaches and educators about how to instill these values.
Like what?
Well, things like praising good sportsmanship.
Okay.
Setting clear expectations.
Right.
And maybe most importantly, modeling that behavior themselves.
Right. That lead by example.
Actions speak louder than words.
They do.
And, the source makes a really good point about
What's that?
shifting the focus away from just the outcome, whether you win or lose.
Yeah.
It's about encouraging effort and resilience and respect.
Regardless of the score.
It's how you play the game that matters.
That's what they say.
And this actually raises an interesting question for all of us.
What's that?
How can we, as fans, as community members,
Yeah.
promote good sportsmanship in our own lives?
That's a good question.
It's something to think about.
It is.
Wow, I'm feeling so inspired after this deep dive.
Me too.
It's incredible how much we can learn from sports.
About teamwork, discipline, resilience.
Respect. Qualities that go way beyond the playing field.
Exactly.
And I love how the source highlights the power of sports.
Yeah.
To bring people together, to build communities.
To make us better versions of ourselves.
So on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
If you could create a brand new sport, what would it be like? What skills would it emphasize?
What would it look like?
What values would it promote?
That's a great question for our listeners.
I want to hear your ideas.
Yeah, share them with us.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.